بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. صدق الله العظيم. Respected brothers and elders, we need to follow the best example as mentioned in this ayah. The verse which I just recited, we must follow the best example. And who is the best example? It is our beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, to follow someone, we need to have love for them. And when will we love someone? When we know them. So the first thing as believers, we need to get to know Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Mawlana Mujahid has explained beautifully, that we need to get to know our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his sunnah, his ways. That's why we need to look at the Seerah. That's why we need to look at his life from the beginning, how it started. I will try to, of course, this is a very vast topic and we can be here for hours, but Mawlana has given us all some sort of topics where we need to stick to that. Inshallah, I will try to stick. I've been given the Makkan period, the life of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Makkan period, and how his sacrifices and the sacrifices of Sahabah, how they made sacrifices so that we can benefit from the religion today. Now, coming back to the point that we must know someone to truly love them. We all claim that we love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No one can have complete faith, iman, without loving Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. लेकिन ये कैसा प्यार है, ये कैसा इश्क है जिसमें we don't know what he did, we don't know how he looked, his dealings. This is not true love. This is just lip service in that case. So we must learn from the Seerah, educate ourselves and our children how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he spent his life, how his social dealings were, what kind of political decisions he would make in his life, how he would react in certain situations, how he would preempt in other situations. So this all we learn from the Seerah. It's a complete way of life, Islam. So we need to look into the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how they were put through difficult tests throughout the Makkan period, the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Makkah. Because the period in Makkah, around 13 years, there were very few ahkamat revealed. If you look at the Quran, the Makkan surahs, the theme is Tawheed, Risala and Akhirah. Imaniyat, Aqidah. Just correcting the Aqidah. There's very few ahkamat. If you look at the Medinan surahs in the Quran, they have a lot of ahkamat. So in the Medinan life, that's when once the Iman was in place, everyone is ready to receive the commandments. Then in the Medinan life, the commands were revealed. So in the Makkan period, it was all about establishing Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Sahabah were put through so many difficulties. We look at the examples of the most famous from different aspects. The poor Sahaba were put through difficult tests, and the rich, the ones with high status, everyone had to go through difficulties. So if you look at Bilal radiallahu an, how he was the slave of Umayyah ibn Khalf. And Umayyah ibn Khalf was a close friend to Abu Jahl, whose title was Abu al-Hakam, but because of his ignorance and his hatred for Islam, he was given the title of Abu Jahl, the father of ignorance. So Abu Jahl had so much hatred for Islam, Iman, that he took permission from Umayyah ibn Khalf to punish Umayyah ibn Khalf's slave, who was Bilal radiallahu anhu. And the narrations mention that he would punish him at night, and Bilal wouldn't get tired Of course, what Zulm Seerah, Bilal radiallahu anhu was taking this punishment. Abu Jahl would get tired of beating Bilal radiallahu anhu. And then during the day when the sun was at its peak, in the scorching sand, he would put Bilal radiallahu anhu on the ground, pin him down with a rock on him, so that he can't move. What else he would do, he would tie Bilal radiallahu anhu to horses and make the horses run. But Bilal radiallahu anhu, what was on his tongue? Ahad. And he became known for this. He would not say what Abu Jahl wanted him to say. Eventually, of course, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu bought Bilal radiallahu anhu for an inflated price, and then he set him free. Then we know the status which Bilal radiallahu anhu eventually reached, being the muadhin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then if you look at, there's another Sahabi, Khabbab ibn al-Ard. Regarding him, he wasn't born a slave. He was kidnapped as a child and then sold into slavery. And when he accepted Islam, when he heard about Islam, he accepted Islam, he was also punished. And he was punished to such an extent that he got permanent scars on his back. And later on, when Umar radiallahu anhu was the Khalifa, the Amir al-Mu'mineen, at times he would get overwhelmed. He would ask Khabbab radiallahu anhu to lift his qamis from his back. And when he would see the scars, then he would refresh his perspective, you could say. Then another Sahabi, we know Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu anhu. Again, he was tortured along with his family. He accepted, young boy, he accepted Islam. And he would go and sneak into the gatherings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His father and mother initially didn't accept Islam. Once they found out what Islam was, they also accepted. Sumayya radiallahu anha and Yasir radiallahu anhu. Abu Jahl found out, he started punishing them as a family. He would tie them all together and leave them for days, many a times. But the parents of Ammar, Yasir and Sumayya radiallahu anhum, they would not give up. They would not give up their religion. Sumayya said to Abu Jahl that no matter what you do, we will not give up our religion. We will not give up this faith that we have believed in. And what Abu Jahl did, he put a spear through Sumayya radiallahu anha. She became the first martyr of Islam. And as Maulana Mujahid was mentioning, these are not just stories. We need to picture and visualize when we read the seerah, when we read the history, whatever we are reading, whether it's the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ or the lives of the Sahabah, we need to visualize and picture and imagine how it was. And a lot of the times what happens is, for example, especially when it comes to the seerah, the Makkan period or the Medinan period, Jab Masjid Nabi ki baat chalti hai, what happens is our mind gets cast to how Masjid al-Nabawi is now. It was nothing like that. We need to make sure that when we talk about the seerah, the picture in our mind is how it was at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At that time, the Masjid al-Nabawi itself, that barely above head height, palm leaves as the roof, nothing on the floor, no carpet, no mats. So the bricks were baked in sun. Very, very simple masjid. Very small and simple masjid, but that became the markaz of hidayah. That became the place from where Islam spread. So whenever we talk about Masjid al-Nabawi at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that's where our mind should go. Not now, because now, of course, you could say just the haram, just the vicinity of the Masjid al-Nabawi is probably the whole area of Medina and how many people, the people that were living there. So coming back to the point, Ammar bin Yasir, the mother, Sumayya, was spared by Abu Jahl. And then the father, he was kicked to death by Abu Jahl. This is in front of the child, in front of Ammar. And then Ammar was put through, his punishment intensified as well. But he wouldn't give up. But then a time came where he eventually said what they wanted to hear when they were punishing him. He said, I believe in Lat and Uzza, the gods, their gods. And then they let him go. He was disappointed in himself. He crawled to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam And he came to him and he told him that this is what happened. I eventually told them that I believe in Lat and Uzza. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him, is that what is in your heart? He said, I don't believe more than what I'm believing now. This is the most I have had iman. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he was, Ammar radiallahu anhu was reassured that if, and the rest were told as well, to get rid of this torture, or to get out of the torture, if you say such kalimat of kufr, then that will not invalidate your iman, as long as your heart is true to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, as I said, these were some of the slaves and the poor Sahaba, but it wasn't just the poor. Everyone, more or less everyone, was put through difficulty and hardship. There's narrations mentioning how Uthman radiallahu anhu, he was tied up. Uthman radiallahu anhu was one of the richest Sahaba. There's narrations mentioning Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, how he was emotionally blackmailed by his mother. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he was nearly beaten to death. So these are the sacrifices what the Sahaba have made for the deen to reach us. And then if these are the sacrifices of the Sahaba, but if you look at the sacrifices of our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, his sacrifices started before he was born. He's born an orphan. His father had passed away before he was born. His mother passes away when he's 6 years old. आजकल कोई यतीम होता है तो हमें तरस आ जाता है. हमारे नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम वो पैदा ही यतीम हुए थे. Our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was born an orphan, 6 years old. His mother passes away. Then his grandfather looks after him, Abdul Muttalib. He passes away after 2 years, 8 years old. Then he's in the care of his uncle Abu Talib. So you can imagine just the beginning of his life, from the beginning of his life, how difficult it was. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, he was put through so many difficulties and hardships in a short time. So there's so much there's so many stories and so many parts which we can look at. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would have mercy for everyone. He would show kindness to everyone. At times, the Sahaba, someone would say to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Udu ala al-mushrikeen," pray against the disbelievers, the mushrikeen. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "No, I'm not sent as a la'an. I'm not sent as a person jo lantan karta, lanat karta. I'm not sent as a person who curses. Rather, I am sent as rahmah, as a mercy to mankind." And that's what his conduct was. Yes, sometimes he did pray against certain individuals. As we see, there was an occasion when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in salah, and some of the leaders of the Quraysh, they got together and they planned that someone should throw the intestines of a camel on top of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So manhus us waqt the person who did it, his name was Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayth. Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayth. He's the one who went and got the intestines and he placed it on top of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was in the sajda. Bukhari Muslim ki hadith Bukhari Muslim ki hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim that Fatima radiallahu anha, she was a girl at that time. She was coming and removing the intestines of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he prayed against those leaders who were there. And the scholars mentioned that this was whenever it was something against the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, apni zaat ke khilaf agar kuch hua, he always wished to forgive. But this was disrespect to the salah, which is the most important thing, the dearest thing. So that's when he prayed against the leaders. He prayed against them that Allah destroys Utbah, Shayba, Abu Jahl, and the person who did this, Ibn Abi Mu'ayth, Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayth. So he prayed against all of these. And the narrator says that we saw these du'as transpire in the battle of Badr, in the first battle, once they got to Medina, in the battle of Badr, when we were throwing them into the well, once they were killed. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at times he may have prayed against them, but we see through his general life, when it was something against him, he would always pray for them. We look at the time in Taif, what he was put through in Taif, but yet he's praying for them. The angels are ready to punish the whole area, but yet he forgives. And he says maybe if they don't accept Islam, the ones after will accept Islam. So that's why it's important that we work on our iman. We will go through difficulty and hardship in life. But we need to stay steadfast, have belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all go through difficulty and hardships, but we must have patience. And we look at the lives of the Sahabah radiallahu anhum ajma'in and the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what they went through and how they came out of it, how they reacted in these situations. Because just knowing that there's one Allah is not enough. We must believe in it from our heart. Because many of the Quraysh, they knew that this is the truth, but they didn't accept it. I will mention one more story, inshallah, and then we will conclude. Abu Sufyan, one of the leaders, Abu Jahl, and Akhnas ibn Shurayh, 3 leaders. At night, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would pray Tahajjud Salah, all 3 of them, individually, not together, they went to listen to the Quran. The Quran में एक कशिश होती है ना, ऊपर से Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam tilawat farma rahe ho. So the Quran, they wanted to listen to the Quran and hear the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being recited by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they went there. Of course, they are leaders of the Quraysh. They are at the time enemies of Islam, because Abu Sufyan later on accepts Islam. So they are preaching, telling people not to accept Islam. But at night, late at night, they are going to listen to the Quran. So when they all get there, they listen to the Quran before Fajr time, when they are returning, they bump into each other. They ask each other, what are you guys doing here? What are you doing here? They said, we came to listen to the Quran, but then they agreed to each other. They said, okay, no, we can't be doing this. We are telling people not to listen to him, and we're listening to it ourselves, so it's not right. So next night, all of them thought that the other 2 won't come. Each of them thought, the other 2 won't come, I'll go and listen. And all 3 of them turn up there, they listen, then they bump into each other. They agree again for a second time that we're not going to come again. Third night again, the same thing happens. All 3 of them thought, okay, twice we've agreed, the other 2 won't come, let me go. Again, third day, all 3 of them are there and they listen to the Quran. After that, they bump into each other and they say, no, we're not going to come back. Third time. So the narration mentions that Akhnas ibn Shurayh, he went to Abu Sufyan first, later on, and he asked him, what do you think about the kalam, what was being recited? And Abu Sufyan asked him, you tell me first, what do you think? He said, I think this is the truth. And Abu Sufyan us waqt to Miladullah jawab de diya, he didn't give a clear answer, but later on, as we know, Abu Sufyan became a Muslim and he served Islam beautifully as well. Then Akhnas ibn Shurayh went to Abu Jahl and he asked him, what do you think about the Quran? His answer was different. And from his answer we see that he knew that it's the truth, but it was a status and ego and family that came in play. So what he said was that their family and the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have been in with Banu Munaf, we have been in competition for a very long time. And so when they started giving water to the pilgrims, we started giving water to the pilgrims. When they would get ready for war, we would do the same. But a time came when now we are in a situation where it's like a 2-horse race and the horses are neck to neck. And now they are telling us that they've got a prophet who is getting inspiration, divine inspiration. How are we going to compete with this? It's not possible, so we're not going to accept. There's no chance that I will ever accept this. So we can see that many of the mushrikeen, they knew. What we learn from this is that janna kafi nahi hai, manna bhi zaruri hai. Knowing is not enough. You have to accept it from the heart and then act upon it, because ita'ah is necessary. And I will finish on this note, that when the Sahabah, we all claim that we love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and we want to be with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Uska asan nuska hai. In the day of judgment, or after the day of judgment in Jannah, we want to be with our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So kaise unke saath honge? So this was the concern of the Sahaba. One Sahabi came and he asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, हमारी सुबह शाम आपके साथ है, मजलिस में आपके साथ है, we sit with you, in the morning we are with you, in the evening we are with you. But in the next life, you're going to be with the Nabiyyin, and how are we going to get close to you? Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't reply. Then the verses were revealed. وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ. That whoever follows, ita'ah is necessary. Whoever follows Allah and His Rasul, then they will be with those whom Allah has blessed. From who? From amongst the Nabiyyin, Siddiqeen, Shuhada and Salihin, those of the highest level. What is required? Ita'ah of Allah and His Rasul. Simple nuskha jo hai. It sounds simple, but it's difficult when we start acting upon it. अपने मतलब का जो होता है, whatever is easy for us, उस पे अमल करते हैं. If something goes against our desires, then ये तो सुन्नत ही है ना, फर्ज तो नहीं है. Normally people come and ask the ulama or the imams, they come and ask, by masla they want to ask the mas'ala, the ruling, is this fard or not? Fard, okay, I'll do it. Not fard, they don't want to listen to by sunnat muakkada nahi hai kya. They don't want to know. Because we don't have the value in our hearts. That's why we must read the seerah, see the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the sacrifices that they have made, so that we have the love, His love in our hearts. When we have the love in our hearts, true love, then we will act upon His teachings. We will try to be like Him. We will try to dress like Him. Our appearance will be like Him. Everything will fall into place. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to act upon whatever has been said. Ameen wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.